1896, the First Sino-Japanese War occurs over disputes between Japan and China for Korean influence. Surprisingly, Japan wins, but they're unable to take advantage of their victory because of the Allies taking advantage of China's weakness and overthrowing different parts of China, creating a conflict across the entire country. February 8, 1904, Japan attacks Russia's Chinese territory for materials, and they miraculously win, stapling themselves as a military powerhouse to the rest of the world. The Japanese military started to take control of the government and spread the idea that they're racially superior. Then a potentially staged bombing of a Japanese train gave Japan the excuse to invade China and set up a sphere of influence in China, occupying Manchuria. As all of this was happening, two other countries that felt like they were racially superior also had issue with the Allies, Italy and Germany. This created an alliance between the three countries and was setting the stage for World War II. July 7, 1937, 2 years before World War II started, while occupying Manchuria, Japanese troops stationed outside of Beijing got into an altercation with Chinese troops for an unknown reason. It is seen as potentially staged. The next day on the Marco Polo Bridge, Chinese and Japanese soldiers started firing, and this started the Second Sino-Japanese War. Japan then won two battles, one in Beijing and one in Shanghai, and an order to send an attack onto Nanjing, the current Chinese capital. This is when the Nanjing Massacre occurred. The Japanese officer, Mitsu Awan, sent a direct order to still kill and rape the Chinese people, plunging the Chinese citizens into 6 weeks of terror. When plunged into war, the two countries, groups, etc., are fighting for power. This can vary from economic power, influence, and ideology. While fighting for power, groups do anything to have control as their responsibility as a military group. But at what cost does this responsibility create? The citizens who are trying to live while in this war have to deal with the casualties and attacks from military groups. Chinese citizens in Nanjing go through this exact same thing, showing how inevitable war really is. Once the Japanese soldiers got the order to invade Nanjing, the leader of the Chinese nationalist government, Chiang Kai-shek, ran away, leaving the people of Nanjing with no leader and allowing Japan to easily overtake the capital and turn the already corrupt China into a Japanese puppet. Once Japanese soldiers were inside Nanjing, they had a policy called the burn to ash policy, calling for soldiers to kill all, burn all, and loot all. Nanjing survivor Gao Shanli experienced some of the horrors of this policy, as he claims to be in a house while it was getting burned down, and says, "There was only 2 floors. Once I reached the 2nd floor, the devils had found us." Japanese soldiers didn't only burn and kill, they did these things in horrific ways, like bayonet practice on pregnant women and babies, repeated rape of women which led them to killing themselves, torture including using needles to penetrate people's eyes, genitals, mouths, etc. These events went on for 6 weeks. John Rabe, a Nazi Party member, was inside of Nanjing with his family as this was occurring. Before Japan and Germany created an alliance, Germany would commonly send resources to China and had territory inside of the country. John Rabe and his Nazi soldiers would induct Chinese citizens into their zone and soon created the safety zones to protect people from Japanese soldiers. This saved many people, but how safe were these zones in reality? According to Nanjing survivor Yao Ling, the food was not enough. There was a place selling rice, so we would go to buy rice. During that time, it was very unrest and disorderly. The Japanese soldiers used bayonets to kill people if it was disorderly. And according to Minnie Vautrin, an American teacher who moved to Nanjing to teach in China, she claims, "In our charge are beginning to grow dim in our memories. Now, even that unforgettable night of December 17th, when 12 women were taken from our camp." And finally, a quote from John Rabb. 3 of us committee members drive out to the military hospitals that have been opened, whose doctors and nurses simply ran away when the shelling got too heavy, leaving the sick behind with nobody to care for them. Even though they were in that area that allowed for a second of fresh air and time to relax, anything could happen to them at any time. Not even being able to get food or have shelter without fear of being kidnapped and raped or being stabbed by a bayonet. John Rabb has been immortalized in China as a savior, with his grave being moved from Germany and placed in Nanjing. But the safety zones could only do so much to protect the rights and lives of Chinese citizens. But this makes you think. A Nazi member was unable to sit back and witness the Chinese people get murdered. Nazi members also thought they were the supreme race, so why would they go out of their way to help a lower race? It is because the things happening at Nanjing were something no one should endure. Finally, while fighting for power, groups do anything to have control, as a responsibility as a military group. But at what cost does this responsibility create? The citizens who are trying to live while in this war have to deal with the casualties and attacks from military groups. The Japanese soldiers were doing what they were told from officers, but the reason Nanjing became a massacre instead of a normal defeat during war is because of the out-of-control Japanese military at the time. This not only left China in ruin mentally and physically, but economically, with the Chinese Civil War starting immediately after World War II. The battles of war end in destruction that nobody can predict and control because of the responsibility of the government. But is it worth it if people's rights are at stake?